Back in St. Louis, whoopsie, there used to be a catfish and barbecue joint in North St. Louis in an area of town called Bridgeton. It was out by, it was kind of like right next to this vast complex, which was the, and still is, the location of the international airport for St. Louis, called Lambert International Airport. But I believe it was called Catfish John's. And there was a fiddle player that played in a country band that would play there every week. This band, by the time it finally disbanded, was comprised of really a bunch of old guys who'd been literally, and I mean literally, playing that gig for 30 years, possibly longer. There was a pair of brothers in that band, the Gerst brothers, Joe and Simi Gerst. Joe played guitar and pedal steel. Simi was the fiddler. Simi, S-I-M-I, Simi Gerst. He walked into the violin shop one day where I used to work in St. Louis. And just to kind of say hello and pay us a visit. Strangely enough, it was the first time he ever set foot in our shop, even though we had been there for many, many, many years. I think I had already worked there for possibly 18 years, maybe. By the time Simi walked in, he lived way across town. Maybe that had something to do with it. He lived way, way, way north in St. Louis. So we were far away from him. In any case, he walked in and we started talking fiddles, talking about music. And we ended up having a little bit of a jam there. I recall that he grabbed a fiddle and played, among other things, played Sweet Georgia Brown, which of course is a sort of a swing standard. I think I might have been playing bass fiddle. I think Jeff, the owner of the shop, was playing guitar. But I mean to tell you right now, brother, Simi ripped that Sweet Georgia Brown like we had never heard it before. He played some of the most original, weird, hillbilly kind of double stops and other weird sort of hillbilly licks that a lot of which he obviously made up somehow from somewhere deep in his mind. But we'd never heard anything like it. But we finished up our little jam and we got to talking a little more. And I finally asked him, I said, Simi, surely you've written some of your own fiddle tunes. It'd be sure great to hear you play just one or two of them, just anything you got, anything that you have composed yourself. And he kind of said, he thought for a minute and said, no, I never really wrote anything. I never made anything up. I mostly just played other people's stuff. And I said, really? I said, man, you're in your late 70s. You've been playing your fiddle your whole life. Surely you've made up a few fiddle tunes somewhere along the way. And then he thought about it a little more and he goes, you know what? Actually, here's something I remember I made up a long time ago. And he just grabbed the fiddle and he proceeded to play the following tune, which I essentially committed to memory right there on the spot because it was so cool. Simi's tune is what we call it. Key of D. So, uh, so that was the tune that he ripped off right there on the fiddle in the shop. And we heard from his brother Joe just a couple of weeks later that Simi had gone into the hospital. And it looked like it was getting close to the end for old Simi. And Joe asked us if he could come by the shop with his cassette tape deck, and would Jeff and I play some fiddle tunes for him so he could play those tunes for him at his bedside up in the hospital. So that's exactly what we did. We played some tunes into Joe's tape recorder. He took that tape deck up to the hospital. And I think it was only 3 or 4 days later, we heard that Simi had passed. But Joe had called us and told us that Simi really enjoyed those tunes that we had played, and he really appreciated us playing those tunes, especially for him. So rest in peace, my friend. Rest in peace, Simi Gerst. I'll keep playing your tune until the day I die. Okay.